CNBC-TV18, celebrating 17 years of business leadership.
Mr. Lavasa, let me also then ask you, sir, you said that it's still early days and the full implications of demonetization have not really been understood, and the government is refraining from putting out some sort of estimate. But would it be fair, sir, to say that it could be, beyond 0.5%, closer to 1.5% impact on GDP? I mean, the RBI today has said 7.6 to 7.1% as far as its GVA outlook is concerned. What are the broad estimates that the government is working with, sir?
So far, government has not made an assessment of what exactly would be the impact. And I'm not even sure whether the entire 0.5% reduction which RBI has projected is on account of demonetization. That will be known once we study their paper which they will bring out and the minutes of the meeting. But yes, you're right that RBI has revised the assessment from 7.6 to 7.1. But that having said, there are many other factors in the economy, I think, which point to a healthy trend of economic growth. Now, how far these are sustained, that time will tell. But the fact is that the economic activity temporarily appears to have suffered, and there are a lot of anecdotal evidence. There is no firm analysis on which sector has affected how much. But if we go by the tax collections which are taking place, let's say especially of the excise tax, because excise represents manufacturing, the numbers so far that we have got do indicate that excise collections have not fallen. But there would be a temporary setback to some of the informal sector. And there is, of course, the attendant difficulty which people have had to face because of sucking out of so much of liquidity from the market.
Right. Let me then ask you about the other big economic event that everyone is watching out for, and that has to do with the goods and services tax. We don't know whether there will be progress at the next meeting of the GST Council, slated for the 11th and 12th, or whether the bill itself will be passed in this session of Parliament. What if the bill were not to go through in this session of Parliament? Is April 1 then, a dead timeline for the GST virtually?
Well, the timeline is the 1st of April 2017. There is another meeting slated end of this week, and we are making an effort with the state governments to evolve a consensus. I think most of the issues have been resolved, and whatever is remaining, we should believe and hope that that also gets resolved so that we stick to this timeline. But one important thing which I would like to share with the viewers is that, you see, the whole process of demonetization has also triggered a major evolution towards a digital economy, an economy in which transactions are done transparently and in a cashless mode. Now, all that this is driving towards is greater compliance, so that whatever transactions take place in the economy, they are visible, they are done in a mode which the system can capture, and therefore whatever are the liabilities of citizens towards the state, those liabilities are transparently discharged. GST, which hinges greatly on greater compliance with tax laws, I think is a step in that direction. And
yes,
I think we should believe that the greater compliance of taxation laws by adhering to a method or a system which ensures that transactions are captured by the system, that is the underlying principle which is behind the GST. Because in the chain of transactions, if there is one person which falls out of the chain, then the GST would perhaps lose the purpose of providing the input credits that it is meant to do. So therefore, I think one of the factors which has not been enough understood so far and commented upon is this necessity for the society to become more compliant, which digital transactions will promote.
Sure.
And in the long run, I think what people are not looking
at... The long-term benefits are understood. But Mr. Lavasa, if I could ask you, if the committee of secretaries that was set up to arrive at the formal classification of rates across different products and categories for the GST, whether that report has been finalized, sir?
Well, I think they have more or less finalized the report. Whether the GST Council has approved that or not, I'm not very sure at this point in time. But the classification at the official level, that exercise has been more or less complete.
Okay. My final question to you then, Mr. Lavasa, you know, we've got an early budget on the 1st of February, and this is now becoming, I mean, we thought that this would have been a GST budget, but this is now becoming a demonetization budget. In that context, what should we realistically expect? Is this going to be a budget that will pump prime growth? Is this going to be a budget that will try and continue to provide impetus to the infrastructure sector, to low-cost housing? I mean, what will be the broad pillars or themes as far as this budget is concerned?
I think the emphasis of the government, which has been laid all along on providing greater employment opportunities, on focusing on low-cost housing, which has been sort of being implemented through two major programs. The fact that there is a major road building program which is going on, the rural connectivity through the telecom network which is going on, the scholarship schemes which the government has announced. So most of these schemes which lay emphasis on social inclusion, financial inclusion of the lower sections of the economy, I think all those schemes will continue with a greater emphasis on some of the core infrastructure sectors of connectivity, of renewable energy, of telecom services being provided to the rural areas, to the areas which have not yet been connected. I think all these things will continue. But there is one more thing which I would like to emphasize, and that is that this entire process of 50 days and the major focus which is now on shifting towards payments through the digital mode, I think that has to be understood in the major implication that it will have in the long run for the way we live, for the way we make our payments, for the way we enter into transactions while leading normal day-to-day life. See, and I want to give you one instance, and these are the two spectrums. That are represented in this whole debate. For example, I was talking to a person who cleans the roads in the place where we live, and he was telling me that now, because his employer insists that he must produce a rent receipt where he lives as a proof of identity and verification. So he says that in the building where I live, there are 2 or 3 similar buildings which are owned by somebody he doesn't know. There is somebody who comes and collects rents from 30, 40 people who live there, and these people are paying their rent regularly. Now when he goes to the person who collects the rent and asks for a receipt, that person says that, no, I don't want to give you a receipt. So one spectrum is represented by an honest, low-paid employee who is making a transaction with cash, honest earning.
Right.
And another spectrum is another end of the spectrum is represented by this person who is a faceless owner of these properties, who is collecting thousands of rupees every month, and who doesn't want to come on record. So I think the whole emphasis that is being given to transactions which should be made through the digital mode will bring on record many of these parallel activities that are going on in our economy.
Right. Mr. Lavasa, really appreciate you joining us here today on CNBC-TV18's 17th birthday for answering all of our questions. Thank you very much for your time, sir, and we wish you all the very best as you head towards the budget.
Thank you very much, and I wish your channel the very best. Thank you.
Well, with that, it is time for us to wrap up this CNBC-TV18 special, but do remember our star lineup of guests will continue. Stay tuned.
CNBC-TV18, celebrating 17 years of business leadership.